36 years of basketball knowledge and life skills. Your host, Coach Goins, focuses on today's topics on and off the court, helping players and coaches achieve their goals. So get ready for another fast break episode of Basketball More Than a Game with your host, Coach Goins.
Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another fast break edition of Basketball More Than a Game, and I'm your host, Coach Goins. Listen, as we always say, make sure you got your sneakers on, you got them laced up tight, because today, via telephone from the campus of Sand Hills Community College, we have none other than head men's basketball coach and assistant athletic director, Coach Mike Apple. Coach Apple, welcome to Basketball More Than a Game.
Hello there, Coach Goins. How are you doing?
Hey, Coach, it's certainly a privilege to have you on. I cannot say without, again, it's just tough to put into words. But, folks, as we say, always make sure you sit back, make sure you have your pen and your paper ready, because this gentleman that we have on today has been to the pinnacles of the game of basketball. He has had a tremendous career on the court as well as off the court. It is a fine line that he walks, and huge integrity in reference to the game of basketball, but most importantly, we call him a friend here at Basketball More Than the Game. So with that, as we always say, time is money and money is time, and Coach Apple is busy as he's preparing for the season and what he does at Sand Hills. But we'll get into that in a second. But first, we got to pay a couple bills, so let's do that right off the bat. So we definitely like to thank one of our sponsors out of North Carolina, Mr. Curtis Jackson, an independent insurance broker and benefits coordinator. You can reach Curtis at area code 919-614-5796, and we certainly thank him for his continued support of Basketball More Than the Game. So, Coach Apple, we got this thing set up, and let me kind of just give you a little bit of offense and defensive strategy.
Okay.
The first part of the podcast, we entitled it Fast Break. And so with that, it's just going to ask you some questions about when you played and what you focused in on and what you had to do to prepare yourself to get ready to go to that next level. So with that, what made Mike Apple successful on and off the court?
I guess first thing, Lamont, is that, I always felt like I needed to be prepared. And, I always felt like I was chasing someone, so that, that it pushed me to get myself as prepared as I could to play the game. I was blessed, I think, with some size. I was 6'6" tall, and I reached that height at a very early age. So my coordination kind of came with me as I got into high school. I had a pretty good work ethic as a high school player. I was in the gym or in my backyard shooting the ball constantly. I had the benefit of some really nice coaches. I was coached by a gentleman named Bill Wade in high school who stressed fundamentals to me, and he felt like that I would be an inside player in high school, but as I moved to the college level, I would go a little bit further, out on the perimeter. So he stressed to me ball handling. He stressed to me the importance of being able to shoot the ball from distance, and I worked on that extremely hard in high school, and I think that really helped me make a transition from a pretty successful high school player to a college basketball player.
You know what, folks? Let me drop a little history on you. I actually had the opportunity to see Coach Apple play, and it was a game at Pinecrest High School. The Union Pines Vikings slid over to that old gym over there in Southern Pines, and I tell you, to put the stomp on us. I was there. I was a part of the team. I was a student assistant, and Coach Apple was battling, going up against Jeff Carmichael, two that's outstanding, heavily recruited young men back in the day. And I was actually both of these gentlemen graduated from class of '81. Coach Apple finished Union Pines again in 1981. Had a great career. So again, he's just, and for you listeners, you young guys, make sure you dial this stuff in. I mean, we're just not here, spending time and spending money, but we're here to set you up for success. So again, as Coach says, he had a system, and he was disciplined to that, and it made him a player and to be able to reach that level of playing college basketball. So with that, Coach, let me go ahead and fire off that second. What advice would you give a player as the season approaches? Where should they find themselves mentally? How do they prepare getting ready to crank up, let's just say, high school basketball?
Well, I think first thing a high school basketball player has to be aware of is what the head coach in that program is looking for, and to that end, he needs to prepare himself as well as he could. I think any good high school basketball coach always looks for a fundamentally sound player. So, my advice to high school kids is, sure, AAU basketball is important. It's fun to get out in the gym and play games, but find time every single day, or at least 3 or 4 or 5 times a week, to get in the gym on your own and work on your weaknesses. Make those weaknesses your strengths for the upcoming season. Left hand, be able to handle the basketball with both hands, be able to shoot the ball, especially if you're a post guy, around the rim with your left hand. Work on that shooting touch. I always talk about there's 3 aspects of a great shooter: being able to shoot from catching a pass, being able to put it on the floor and pull it up, and then be able to finish at the rim. And 2 of those 3 things you can really work well on by yourself. You can simulate catching a ball from one of your teammates and just catching it and shooting it. And you can also work real hard on putting the ball on the floor, and working on various moves to develop that game off the dribble. And again, can't say enough about a young player, a high school age player can really put a lot of time in and make himself better if he does those things.
And the folks say, well, why should I listen to Coach Apple? All right, let's go back a little history. Again, he's a native. He's a native of Moore County and attended Union Pines High School. Went on for a basketball scholarship at Guilford College. And for you older guys, everybody knows Lloyd Free. That's where Lloyd Free went, and again, Coach Apple went and starred at Guilford College. And as Coach Apple was telling those folks, I can remember I had an opportunity to work with Coach Apple back in the late '90s. But every time I'd cut through the gym, and he'd finish up his assignment, his duties as a math instructor, and he would be in the gym working on those things again post his career, off the dribble, simulating that. And so again, as he was telling that story, as I could just, my mind ran back years and years ago of him just working on his game. So again, he's not telling you something that he hadn't done. He's not telling you things that won't make you successful. So with that, Coach, as a star, and when I say as a star, back in your heyday, if you will, what kept you grounded in reference to all of the accolades and the newspapers and and being recruited? Just what kept Mike Apple from being from one side of the ditch to the other? What made you successful with that?
Well, I think for a young player, I think that's really tough, and especially when you start getting people to take notice of you. As you said, we were fortunate in our day. In my area, we didn't have one local newspaper; we had 3, and we were getting all kind of pictures in the papers and articles about us, which was really neat. I think the best thing for a young player, especially if the young player is having some success, is to never lose the idea of being a great teammate. A great teammate is a guy that can make other players around them better. And that means that you're not just necessarily a scorer, if that's what your strength is, but you want to be the best rebounder you can be. You want to be the best defensive player you can be. You want to be a guy that can hit other guys with a basketball when they need it. Not just a passer, but a guy that can, really do some playmaking kind of things into getting other guys involved. So, I think the thing that always kept me grounded was I wanted to do the best I could for my teammates and really play, with those guys in mind, not just with myself.
And again, when he's telling these stories, I just, my mind runs back to when he's coaching, when he's playing, and he played with some players. I mean, it wasn't just, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But again, as Coach is saying, there's no iron team. It's so important that, you get the full body of work, you get your teammates involved, because it's not just the one individual, and it's just the full body of work. So with that, Coach, during the season, and as everything is rocking and rolling and classes going on, how did you prepare? What was your game day? If you don't mind telling the younger players, what was Coach Apple's, the bell is rung, what would be your the setup for get ready to take the floor at night?
Well, The first thing you do is you try to develop a routine. And again, as a high school player, we had a great, again, I can't say enough about my high school coach because he helped us a lot in developing that routine. We always believe in dressing up to games. So we would always wear a tie, a nice shirt, nice, pair of pants, whatnot. So in the morning you got up and you got yourself looking as sharp as you could look to go to school. The next thing that you want to do is you want to concentrate on doing what you're supposed to in the classes in the school. Again, try not to let your mind wander too much because class is as important as the game really, and you want to keep yourself on top of things in your classes. After class, again, then it was that meal. We had a restaurant near Union Pines High School called the Chuck Wagon that we would like to go down and get us a burger, something like that. And again,
yes,
you didn't want to get too much chili or anything like that. Just kind of a basic kind of meal to get you a little something on your stomach to feel like that you were ready to play. And then the next thing is getting out there, getting that uniform on, putting that uniform on the same way every time, and giving yourself everything, preparing yourself to play in that upcoming game.
Just think about that, folks. With you young players, when you sit down, it's not, it's a process. You don't come running in the gym and your sneakers are, not tied, and you sitting there and you trying to just choke down that burger from McDonald's right at the last minute. It's, and that's where, people don't think it's the little things that make great players great. It's just it's
routine.
It's just being disciplined. Time and time out. Don't get out of that. Just try to keep it as smooth as possible. So again, that is that's just great knowledge. So with that, Coach, I'm going to put you on the spot with this one. Okay. What was your greatest moment in Union Pines basketball history?
My greatest moment.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Lamont, we had a storybook year, my senior year. We were 27-1. We were the number one ranked team in the state of North Carolina, and I think we attained that rating before Christmas, and we carried it all the way through until the state playoffs began. We lost in the semifinals of the state playoffs to a team from the mountains of North Carolina, Bandies, in a pretty closely contested game. But as far as just one moment, that whole season, you got to understand, Union Pines High School was a school that was formed from 4 different communities, and each one of those communities had a high school basketball team. And before our season that we had, and made such a great run, our girls team had won a state championship. And I tell people, I thought the girls winning that state championship kind of got Union Pines in the minds of the 4 communities that fed the school. But our season, because we were so good for so long, it really brought those communities together. We were playing before packed houses, not just in home games, but on away games to the whole year. You mentioned the Pinecrest game that you were at.
Yes, sir.
For years and years, they talk about that game as being the most highly, I guess, the most highly attended high school basketball game in the history of Moore County. So, I think what we were able to do that year was just the most memorable thing, because to this day, and this happened back in 1981, I still get people, coming up to me, reminding me of certain games that they were at, and just telling me what, great memories they had of that season. So I don't think any one thing stands out, but that entire season was just, like I say, just kind of a fairy tale kind of situation that we were involved in. It's great.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate you just sharing that in-depth moment and just being transparent. Folks, as Coach Apple said, I can go downstairs and go through the scrapbook, and I can pull it right now. And he's on the baseline, and Jeff Carmichael's there, and coaches, he's playing defense. Jeff's got the ball, and it's in the pilot. And like I said, 1981, and that was basketball at its finest in Moore County. So with that being said, Coach, let's talk a little bit about some of those teammates. If you want to call some of those guys out and recognize some of of your teammates?
I'd be glad to.
You can do so at this time.
I don't think you have a season like we had without having good players, and I think I was a pretty good player on that team. We also had two other guys that played Division I college basketball. Jeff Dowd was I was a senior that year that we were 27-1, and Jeff Dowd was a junior, and he was a guard, played guard at Appalachian State, was a tremendous athlete, one of the best athletes that I ever had luck to play with on a high school level or college level for that matter. We also had a sophomore that year that went on to play college basketball, played at Appalachian State as well, Darrell Person. Again, just a phenomenal basketball player. He was a 6'2" kid that in high school played forward, played kind of around the basket, that made a transition from the forward position to the guard position at college, which is really hard to do, but he did a good job with it, had a great career at Appalachian State. Had a lot of other guys, and it's back in 1981, the junior college basketball situation in North Carolina wasn't a lot of junior colleges, but if there had been, we would have had a lot of guys that would have probably been at that level too that was on our team. Just to mention Skip Brown, really good player, Nelson McCrimmon, another good player. Just again, we had a really nice basketball team, a lot of really good athletes.
Folks, when you think about that, when you're at the size of Moore County and one high school team had 3 Division I players. I mean, that is just absolutely. So you see why the record was 27. What was it, Coach? 27 and
27-1. Yes, sir. We were a 2A high school too. I think our student body totaled about 800 students, so that we were a small school.
So that told you folks back in the day, you better get your ticket and get in there before the JV game tipped off, because if you didn't, you weren't getting anywhere near the facility. So again, just a great opportunity as we kind of walk down memory lane during that entire process. So all right, Coach, I'm gonna transition into you had that great career, and then all of a sudden here's the letters start coming in. Oh man, you're making a decision. You're sitting there, and I guarantee every day you got home, your mom, your dad say, "Hey, Mike, you got another letter coming in." So, if you don't mind sharing it with our listeners and the younger players, what was that like? What was that like getting that letter from the colleges and just being heavily recruited?
No, Lamont, my sophomore year of high school, I got a letter from Wake Forest University telling me that they were going to recruit me as a student athlete. And you just don't know a guy, a small town guy, seeing Wake Forest University letter, and then open it up and it said dear Mike. I mean that was a big deal for me. After Wake Forest, I had a lot of other Division I schools, Appalachian State, Western Carolina, the Citadel, places like that. A lot of old Southern Conference schools recruit me, and I still to this day I've got a box full of all the letters and all the offers and the things that I got. It was really, really nice. I mean, I tell guys all the time that hard work's going to pay off, and hopefully it happens for them. But when you start becoming a recruited athlete and those letters start coming in, it really makes what you're doing seem worthwhile. And it was just a fantastic experience. I remember I would get the old ACC handbook that they would come out with.
Yes,
that had all the pictures of all the teams and all the roundups of how they were going to do for the coming season. I would get one of those in the mail from Wake Forest every year. It was just a really nice experience for me. Sure was. I can
only imagine, because like I said, I was across town, folks, at Pinecrest, and our star player then was Jeff Carmichael, and I can remember the letters coming in, and it was just amazing. He'd walk in, and Coach Cape would have him on this corner of his desk, and I'd pick it up and I'd look, wow. I mean, so again, we again appreciate Coach sharing that, and those are the things that you younger guys that's listening to the podcast understand that those letters don't come in just because Coach Apple's walking down the street kicking a tin can, or he's not taking care of things in the classroom. That is because he was dialed in, he was balanced, he was grounded, and making sure, and again, taking care of things in the classroom allows those letters to flow in and be able to answer those letters. Because trust me when I tell you, the word will get out in front of you if you're not taking care of things in the classroom, and it'll be just like somebody's making that phone call. So, Coach, we certainly appreciate you talking about some of the things in the past that's made you successful. Also, let me just drop this on the folks. Folks, they have to understand that Coach Apple he spent his time at the high school level. He went to finished up at a great career at Union Pines, but his first head coaching situation was at Western Harnett from 1998 to 2003. Then he slid over to my alma mater. I mean, which I was like so happy to have him take on that program from 2003 to 2011, and was very, very successful. Had 10 visits to the North Carolina High School Athletic Association playoffs. He was also named Coach of the Year, several times, and also Teacher of the Year. He was 3 times Coach of the Year recipient, as well as 2-time Coach of the Year, Teacher of the Year. So what I'm saying, folks, is this: not only basketball, as well as taking care of his day-to-day responsibilities in that classroom. And that's why we entitled the show Basketball More in the Game, because it is more in the game. He's just not dialed into one aspect. So if he's taking care of the court, he's taking care of the classroom, he's taking care of his business away from the game. So with that, Coach, we get ready to slide into the next portion we call In the Paint. And in the paint, what we try to do is get down and dirty with the podcast at this time, and not get that precious 3-second call on us. But with that, folks, let's talk a little bit more about what Coach Apple has achieved. In 2012, he's the National Junior College National Champions. They were the District 7 champions, Region 10 tournament champions, and then coaches' accolades are the National Junior College Athletic Association National Coach of the Year, National Association Basketball Coaches National Junior College Coach of the Year. He was also awarded the national champion, the Gary S. Cole Coach Tournament champion. He was also the All-Star Game coach in Las Vegas, Nevada, and he was also District 7 Coach of the Year. So that is a mouthful, and I know you're going to have to either build you another shelf or reinforce the one that you've got all that. But just, folks, when I'm telling you this is from the heart. Mike Apple is a number 1 Class A coach. He's a number 1 Class A individual, and nobody deserves this stuff better than in the hard work. And when I say this, from seeing him as a player back in '81 to actually having an opportunity to work and walk the hallways and discuss some basketball strategies and attend some of his summer camps. But Coach, I just want to kind of freeze here for a moment and let you just talk about, the things that we just read off to our listeners, because again, being a national champion at any level is, that's just a great accomplishment. And when I heard that, I was overwhelmed. I was just like, it couldn't happen to a finer individual. So if you can just kind of share your heart in reference to the things that we just read off.
Well, Lamont, thank you to begin with. I really appreciate you reading all those things off. I think timing in basketball is everything. And fortunately, I had, the good judgment on my hand, and then the luck on the other hand of getting into Sand Hills Community College at a time when we had some good players returning. We were lucky enough to find some good players back in 2012, and being on one of those teams that just got better as the season progressed. We were 30-6 that year. We had a 3-game losing streak during the middle of the season. We kind of changed things up and really took off. Had a chance to win the national championship, as you said. I think one of the best things is that I had a couple of guys that played for me at Pinecrest High School as high school players play on that national championship team at Sand Hills, which just made it so sweet. But transitioning from a high school coach to a college coach, I'll be honest with you, Lamont, I enjoyed and loved being a high school coach. I always envisioned myself as such. Opportunity came up at Sand Hills, which I had some history at Sand Hills because I'm a Moore County guy, as you said, and Sand Hills is in Moore County. But, learning how to be a college basketball coach here has been a really neat experience. The recruiting, man, that's the biggest thing about making that transition from high school to college is that you recruit athletes here, and it's a kind of a 24/7 situation. But we've been fortunate. We've had good players. I think the system that we have here, it's based on my philosophy. We like to play as fast as we can play. I think it's enjoyable for guys. They like to come here, and a lot of them benefit from the way we play. And we've done a good job moving guys on. We've had had a lot of guys move on into scholarship situations. I've got 5 guys graduating this past year, and 4 of those 5 are going to be in scholarship situations, which is just absolutely excellent for those guys. But we've been fortunate, and just thankful that I think the good Lord looks after you a whole lot, and He certainly has done that on my behalf here at Sand Hills Community College.
And again, folks, not every player can play for every coach. And one of the things I want to highlight what Coach Apple just said there is just the discipline and things that, he goes to Sand Hills and basically he builds a program. And as you said, he's modest. He had, no matter, you got to take talent and you got to be able to coach that talent. And that's what he was able to do with a body of work. And as you said, he was able to bring some of the guys over from Pinecrest and do this. But, when you win the national championship, winning the national title, what does success look like? And when you stop and you look in a person that is on our podcast today, and it makes it great. And then that's why we're so excited to have Coach Apple on, because again, he has been where a lot of coaches can only imagine, a lot of coaches can only dream about, and he's achieved that. So again, just congratulations to you, your team, and your staff as well. So with that, Coach, let's just go ahead and as we continue to get into paint, as a coach, what is your method of process improvement from year to year?
Well, I think what you do is you build on what you're good at, and you try to refine that, and you try to make that as good as you can, and then you've got to learn from your mistakes. And I think that's where you've really got to be humble enough to say, okay, this didn't work. Let's tweak it. Let's change it. Let's figure out what the teams that are better than us are doing, so that we can make that a better situation. Like I say, I don't, and again, I don't ever want to feel like I've figured everything out. I don't think I ever will, and I want to keep my mind open enough to try to do new things every year. Now, you got to understand, you don't want to just completely, chuck everything after a year, because I guarantee you, there's stuff that you do, there's stuff that you teach, there's stuff that you have a strength teaching that you don't want to scrap. You want to keep building on that. But what you also want to do is keep your mind open enough to find things that didn't work real well and to tweak them and to change them, things like that. I know, with the new rules in college basketball, it's not as physical a game as it used to be. So we've done a lot of things defensively that, we didn't do in the past to try to make ourselves better on that end. Like I say, the thing that'll never change is we want to play fast. I'm a firm believer in fast break basketball. I think it's exciting. I think it's fan friendly. I think guys like it, and that's not going to change. And what we try to do every year is refine that and just get a little bit better doing those kinds of things. And that's it. And I can see Coach now, get it and kick it out on the wing, go. And there's nothing, go. There's nothing wrong with that. So with that kind of leads me a little the direction I want to go here. I know recruiting is a process, and as you said, being a college basketball coach, you can step out the bank. You don't have to worry about who's in Cameron, Vass, to be able to be on your team. Step out the county. Step out the county. But in that, can you allow us a glimpse behind the curtain, Coach, in reference to what do you look when you walk in the gym and watching what makes you go, this guy can go? Where does a player walk away and knowing that he's got the Coach Apple's stamp of approval, if you will? Well, first of all, we're a Division III college, junior college, Lamont, which means that we don't give athletic financial aid. So we don't have that carrot of a athletic scholarship to dangle in front of kids. What we give them is a chance. We give them exposure. We give them an opportunity to play, first of all, in a good program, and then second of all, a chance to be seen by college coaches, because there's a lot of college coaches who will come to Sand Hills to watch our players play, but we feel like we can give them an opportunity to be recruited to a scholarship situation. When I go into a high school gym, I guess first thing I'm always looking for is I'm looking for fit. As I say, we play fast, so we want guys that we think can play fast, that can get up and down the court. The second thing, if we see something like that, is that first meeting. When I'm in the hallway after that ball game, I want to shake hands with this young man. I'm hoping that young man's going to make eye contact with me. I'm hoping he's going to talk talk to me a little bit about, how he is as a student, what his goals are, things like that. If that goes well, then what we're going to do now is we're going to set up a situation where I've got his phone number, he's got my number, and we're going to talk to each other, we're going to text each other, and get to know each other throughout the course of the season.
Yes, sir.
Now, honestly, being at a junior college, Lamont, we're not the first choice for a lot of student athletes. They're thinking scholarship situations, they're thinking 4-year schools. So then it's a wait and see process as to see what's going to happen, and usually by late February, early March, then we can kind of start narrowing down the kids that we really feel like we have an opportunity to recruit here at Sand Hills.
And that's you think about that process, folks. I mean, so it's about the relationship before the task. So and then that is just like, hey, can you run the fast? Can you? No, I mean, you sit down there and you get to know the player, you get to know the player's heart, and so therefore you'll be able to meet. So, folks, any of the you young guys out there that's aspiring to look for a top-notch program, Sand Hills Community College basketball program, it's a class program, and not just saying that because Coach Apple is there, but that is the main reason why it's a class act program, because it's who's at the helm. And again, for you parents, it's all about the relationship, and take it from me, I've known Coach Apple for over 20 years, and you cannot find a better human being, and again, a mentor, a developer, and just what he's done for the players on and off the court. So with that, Coach, let's move into the next question I want to talk to you about is, how has coaching affected your life?
Well, I mean, Lamont, honestly, it was what I wanted to do from about my, I guess, freshman year of college until now. And, I'll be honest, I've had other opportunities to do other things, but I couldn't see myself leaving the gym and leave, or the sideline, because I was a football coach and a track coach in my early career in high school. The biggest thing is the relationships that you develop. Certainly the guys. I mean, I've got so many young men and young women, for that matter, that I've had the opportunity to work with over the years that are still in my life, and that I still talk to, that still talk to me, that just text me sometimes out of the blue, how you doing, Coach? Things like that. Don't want to just talk about the athletes. It's the other coaches. Some of the friendships that I have forged, and you're among them, is because of the opportunities I had as a coach. The people that you meet, and honestly, some of the places that you get to go because of it. It's just been so worthwhile for me. I don't feel like I'm ready to hang it up by any means, but there's just so many nice things, accomplishments and things that have happened to me that when I do hang it up, I'm going to have a lot of fond memories and a lot of things that I can revisit just time and time again that are really nice. And it's again, I can't think of anything else that I would have rather done than be a basketball coach. I mean, there's nothing on that list that tops it.
And that's so true. I mean, and folks, somebody says, well, he's a basketball coach. He can say that. No, he does it for the right reason. And some people, they think they pay $5 on Tuesday and Friday night, and they think they can then they have the audacity to call themselves a coach. But in that's the spoken word, and as we say a lot of times on the broadcast, he is definitely dropping dimes. And I just want to call this out as well. Coach Apple has extensive other coaching career. He has 19 years as a football coach and 18 years as a track and field coach as well. So he's just not only been in the gym, but it is a sweet sound when you walk in there and that ball is pounding on that hardwood. And in my opinion, and as I tell people, basketball has been very great for me as well. Never been a great, never played, but I was always, Coach Apple always called me a student of the game, and I've kind of really just just let that title kind of just latch on and just really passionate about it, because it has allowed me to travel all over the world, and I just consider it an honor to have Coach Apple on the call. So here's the thing, Coach. I want to kind of move into this segment. And who out of all of the coaches, it can be high school, it could be your college coach, who is your favorite coach, and why? Gosh. And why is that person your favorite coach?
Oh gosh, come on, Lamont, that's tough right there. I was, I was as blessed and as fortunate as anybody that has come through, because I didn't have that many different coaches. Back in my day, we didn't have recreation and things like that. We were very rural where I grew up. So the first opportunity you had playing basketball was in the 7th and 8th grade, and Jim Marshburn was my coach at Vast Lakeview High School in the 7th and 8th grade, and he was as good an X and O coach as you can get for 7th and 8th grade as you could ask for. We played 4 corners, we played triangle and 2 defense, things like that. So you really got a good, kind of introduction to the strategy of the game at a very early age. I played 4 years for the same high school basketball coach, Bill Wade, who was an Indiana born and bred guy, came from Indiana, had all that great basketball tradition right there. Absolutely ahead of his time as far as the things that he brought to Union Pines High School. We were among the first teams in the state to really extensively practice in the summertime. We went to team camp, one of the first teams around to do those kinds of things. So I really felt like we were kind of ahead of the curve on all that. And then I go to college and I get to play for a guy, Jack Jensen, bless his soul. He's deceased now, but Jack Jensen won the national championship, as you alluded to earlier, with Lloyd B. Free and M.L. Carr at Guilford College back in the early 70s, I think. And he was my college coach for 4 years. And again, no better knowledge of the game anyone had than Jack Jensen. So, to tell me who the best guy, hard to say. I was, mentored by Carl Salmon at Union Pines for years and years, who was a, really good, successful basketball coach, just not only on the boys side, but also the girls side. Coach Goins, that's a hard one. Okay, I'm gonna have to say I got a big tie. Okay, amongst my coaches.
I can understand. I can understand too. But I had to go there. That was just.
I understand.
That was just part of the process. So hey, one of the last questions I have for you. So with being a head basketball coach, and of course the travel, and as well as an instructor, as well as a associate athletic director, and the family and the kid. Talk to my coaches that are listening in on work-life balance. How were you successful with that? And if you don't mind, kind of sharing that with our listeners.
Well, first thing is if you want to have a family, you find a wife, okay, that is going to understand what your dream is. And fortunately, I found that. Make sure that she comes absolutely first in your life, outside of all the sports, all the school, all the job responsibilities. Make sure she's number one priority. When the children come, if they come, then that comes next. And you make sure that every single night you give them time, and it's going to be hard because as a coach, you're going to be out late, you're going to be gone, and you're going to miss some things that are important to them. But you make sure that you give those kids and that wife as much attention as you can, and you make sure they feel like that they're important as far as what you're going on, what you got going on. Make sure that whatever is your job description, you carry out that job description. When I was a high school teacher, I was a math teacher first, and I was a coach second. And I made sure that I was prepared every day in that classroom to teach and to do the things that I was supposed to do. And as a math teacher, you don't roll the video very often. You have to sit up in front of the class and you have to teach. So you have to be prepared to do that. And I felt like I was going to stay on top of that. And then honestly, the coaching aspect was the love part outside of everything else. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time with it, and I had a desire to be able to teach it just like you teach a math class. I wanted to be correct on the things that I gave my student athletes as far as drills and things like that. And I took great pride every year in making sure I was on top of the latest developments, as far as offenses, defenses, things like that. And I thought that was important. But you got to be grounded. You got to understand that first of all, if you find that person that you love and that you want to build a life with, they come first, and then everything else kind of falls in line. And I guess I've had pretty good success at doing that, luckily. And again, I keep working on that. That's not something that's ever going to get completely fixed, but something that is always a work in progress.
So again, Coach, he's sharing the folks, and he's sharing with his heart, and again, that's just so well put. And again, I'm speaking from firsthand knowledge to see Coach Apple in its fullness in the classroom, as well as taking care of what goes on in the court, as well as home. We'll share this quick story. I remember when I was teaching at Union Pines with Coach Apple, found out that my wife was expecting, and next thing I know, I walk into Coach's office, and he has a present for me. My son's 21 now, and I'm like, and my mind runs back. I was like, man, he couldn't wear that. He couldn't wear that outfit if he wanted to. So again, just I can't thank you enough, Coach, for your time and what you've done on the court as well as off the court over the years. And just wish you continued success at Sand Hills and whatever you put your hands to. And we know that it's going to be 100% positive. So all you folks that are out there listening, I know I got listeners in Moore County and then even in North Carolina. You have that opportunity, mark on your calendar, get a schedule, stop by and see basketball at its finest. And again, just support Sand Hills Community College and most importantly, my friend, Coach Mike Apple. So with that, Coach, what I'm going to ask you to do, just kind of give us your closing comments, and we'll go ahead and start wrapping up the show. Coach, you have the mic.
First of all, thank you, Lamont. I appreciate that, and I'm very appreciative of you having me on your podcast here, and my best wishes and luck for you and what you got going on, because again, you've always been around basketball, and you've been successful doing these things, and I wish you continued success. As far as Sand Hills Community College, we put out a good product. We've averaged 25 wins a year for the last 6 years since I've been here. We were 26-6 last year. We were ranked 8th in the country. We've got a nice nucleus coming back. I've added some nice recruits this year. If you get an opportunity to come to Sand Hills Community College, we've got a gym that is going to be in year 3 of operation next year. We've got chairback seats, which is a little nicer than bleacher seats, if you understand what those are.
How about that?
But we put a nice product on, and we'd love to have people come watch us play. And if I've got young men out there that are interested in being college basketball players, by all means, contact. Just Google Sand Hills Community College. You'll find our athletic page. You'll see my picture, and I'd be glad to talk to you about it.
And folks, and trust me when I tell you, we guard who we allow on the podcast. We definitely, it's not about just cranking out episodes. It's about having quality episodes that's going to benefit everybody that subscribes to Basketball More than the Game. So with that being said, Coach Apple, again, we thank you so much for your time, your talent, and everything that you're doing for the citizens of Moore County and its surrounding areas. So, folks, as we close out another episode, as we always end with our scripture verse, John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So, as we always say, somebody somewhere is always working on their game, and I'm your host, Coach Goins, and I'll see you in the gym.